Hi Sarah, welcome back to Liz Viva's. This is week 5's Viva. I don't have a chance to film it, but we're filming it now. So week 5's question was, what were the cultural implications of the Enlightenment? And before we kind of dive in, let's just talk a little bit about what the Enlightenment was. So the Enlightenment was the time period of 1650 to the 1800s. And during this time period in history, there was a lot of imaginative thinking that kind of showed rationality and understanding of the causes and effect of certain things. Scientific method was often used to explain different things. They restructured their government and their social institutions around reason and just thinking more than having faith and like believing in like gods or angels or like the real God. They just put more emphasis on, question everything, have reasons, have whatever for believing stuff. So, what happened? So some of the main goals of this time period was the promotion of the use of reason, refocusing of humanity's perspectives, and from the supernatural to natural world, so just kind of explaining, supernatural events and stuff, and also the creation of a new society that would progress towards perfection. So some people like McItry, Thiley, and Hobsonbaum, I don't know their names, but they were people who thought and stuff. Historians, I believe, and they see the Enlightenment as this failure. They said that it separated traditions from rationality, and it really put this like gap between religion and just rationality and like everyday life kind of. But however, this is not. Some people disagreed with this, like Steve Peaker. He thought that, quote, the decline of violence is an accomplishment during this time period. So, because people were more, thinking through ideas and having academic debates versus sword fights and killing. Sad, true. Just kidding. So as I've said before, the Enlightenment started around the 1650 to the 1800s. And so, one of the reasons why people think that this time period was so, like how this time period kind of came about, was because in 1648, so just 2 years before the Enlightenment age, they had this peace treaty of Westphalia, and it brought peace to the 30 Years' War between the Protestant and Catholics. So this is kind of when people were like, okay, we have this peace now, like, we don't have to worry about fighting, So they were really able to rethink and apply reason and logic and a lot of the times the scientific method to human experience in the supernatural world. So again, I think I kind of said this before, but instead of using their faith and their, religion, or their relationship with God, they used reasoning, and this is, again, really creates this separation between religion and thinking. And so a lot of people just kind of, religion or whatever, thinking, what am I saying? Religion and like faith was just something you do on Sundays or whatever. So let's dive into this then. So that's kind of the Enlightenment period, so we have to keep all of that in mind. But although the Enlightenment had significant and positive effects on society, its cultural impacts had dark undertones. My 3 implications are that it shaped our ideas about a physical world. It transformed our perceptions on philosophy and the arts, and finally, it transformed our social behavior and how we view hierarchy. So the first implication that kind of shows the Enlightenment of having these dark undertones is that it shaped our ideas about the physical world. So René Descartes was a French philosopher, and he he didn't really like the philosophers of the past, like Socrates and Aristotle. He thought that they were just kind of piggybacking off of each other, and they weren't really thinking for themselves, or, you know, using like logic and stuff to find new ideas and support new things. So he wanted to prove Christianity was rational. So how he did this is he discovered that you have to have this base of self-knowledge before becoming a Christian, which is interesting. And he found that Christianity requires awareness of one's own existence and one's relationship to the world. So this is kind of interesting. That's the way he thought, and it was very interesting. One of his famous lines that he's, said that I think is kind of, I don't know if I've heard it before, but it's, I think, quote, "I think, therefore I am." So he just, he believed in thinking for yourself, coming up with new ideas and reasoning, and that if you had this self-awareness and awareness with the world, that it was kind of obvious that Christianity was really rational. This can also be seen in Isaac Newton, who lived from 1643 to 1727. So he kind of lived in the middle of this, or kind of at the beginning to the middle. And he was obviously he discovered gravity. And this had a huge impact on the Enlightenment. He was able to explain things that they thought science and reason would never be able to explain. Like, they just thought, gravity, things fall, like that's the gods, that's God, or that's angels. But no, Isaac Newton was able to describe this. And John Maynard Keynes says, quote, Newton was not the first of the age of reason, but he was the last of the magicians, end quote. So he, again, just kind of found this, his discovery of gravity really showed oh, hi, sweetie. Showed that, things could be explained by reason and logic and science versus having faith. So my second implication, that the Enlightenment transformed our perspectives on philosophy and the arts. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of Johann Sebastian Bach. He lived from 1685 to 750, so kind of in the middle of this time period, and he can be seen as one of the greatest Baroque composers. And his music was really influenced by not only his Lutheran faith, but also thought and reason. He believed that all music was made to worship God, and he actually wrote this piece called Crab Canyon, and it's super cool if you go and listen to it. It is super cool. You could play it forward, and then you also could play it backwards, and then you also could play it together. And so it's super cool just to hear that, and how that is so it's music, and it's beautiful, and it's artsy, but it's also so logical and structured, and so that's just very interesting. So yeah, that happens. And there's also this Paledonian architecture. So Paledon was born in 1508 to 1580, so a little bit before this time period, but he was a Voltairean architect, and he used a ton of symmetry and perspective and ancient Greek and Roman techniques in his buildings. So this, as you can see, focuses on the logic and the reason and the symmetry. If you look, I drew a little picture on my thing. If you look at his buildings, they're very symmetric. There's a window and lines and lines. So that's kind of fun. But let's see. The contribution of Venice on page 163 says, quote, in Paledonian architecture, they, speaking of the English congresses, found the spirit of the ancient world fused with the idea of Venice as an expression of liberal society, and it's here in my handwriting. imagination recalled the political spirit of its historical background, end quote. So this is just showing that it was a building, but it showed the cultural and the political kind of fused with this ancient world of ideas. And so, yeah. My third implication, that the Enlightenment was not only this, time of significant, like, finding and learning about things and thinking for yourself, but also just this dark time, is that the Enlightenment transformed our social behavior on how we view hierarchy. So the Enlightenment saw rationality as the source of, like, all-knowing and all-powerful truth. There are two main ideas that kind of came from this was Catherinism and utilitarianism. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. But it basically is saying that the humans are free to choose and have the choice to choose between rationality and instincts. Also, I think in the slides it used the words duty and versus pleasure. So this can be seen with, I think Sarah, you gave this example, which I thought was really good, is with the, with the monkey and the banana. If you give a monkey a banana, it's not gonna, like, is it gonna sit there and be like, oh, I can share this with my friends, or I can save this for later? Or is it just gonna eat it and find joy and pleasure in eating it in that moment? So Catherinism thought that you could choose rationality over survival and instincts, and utilitarianism thought that you could not, and they thought more of just like rejoicing and finding like the happiness in the moment, and stuff like that. So Mary Wollstonecraft lived from 1759 to 1797. So she was kind of more on the back middle end of this period of time, but she was a moral and political philosopher. She did a lot of analysis on women in the modern culture, and she tried to understand what like relationships were through gender roles and the different sexes within rationality. So she actually says, quote, "It would be an endless task to trace the variety of meaningless cares and sorrows into which women are plunged by the prevailing opinion that they were created rather to feel than reason, and that all the power they obtain must be obtained by their charms and weakness," end quote. So she believed that women weren't supposed to be these, hardcore reasoning and structure and logic. They were supposed to have feelings, and they were supposed to express those feelings and cry, eat bagels, and laugh and have fun and, whatever. So that's probably why women are so emotional. Thank you, Mary, for making us emotional. This is the end of the Viva, though. Thank you for watching. I'm just going to end with our thesis, which is, although the Enlightenment had significant and positive effects on society, its cultural impacts had this dark undertone. And again, my three implications were that it shaped our ideas about the physical world, it transformed our perspectives on philosophy and the arts, and it transformed our social behavior and how we view hierarchy. So thank you so much. I'm out here on this beautiful fall day. Oh my gosh, so this is so cute. Can you see her? Wait, how do I do it? She's just laying on my feet. She's so cute. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so bye, Sarah. Thank you so much for watching this.